If you've ever found yourself debating whether to buy something because of what the brand stands for and how that relates to the product you're thinking about purchasing, or if you've ever even spent a few minutes over the last few years scrolling through Facebook while totally distrusting Facebook, you're encountering cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a huge issue most brands are facing, and if you want to understand how to resolve it to the best of your ability in your business, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to get really clear on what it is, how it applies to your marketing situation, and how you can handle cognitive dissonance. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist, and on this channel, I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment and let me know what brand or big business you've run into that you really just don't trust that much. That seems kind of contrary. I would love to know. Until then, let's get started. All right, so what is cognitive dissonance? So cognitive dissonance is an inconsistency between two beliefs. So maybe you don't like to spend a lot of money, but you want a fancy new car. The dissonance occurs between your frugal nature, you're not wanting to spend a lot of money, and the desire that you have for that expensive item. Said more simply, it's just a mental inconsistency. Let's say that you believe strongly that the clouds are actually cotton candy, and then you see a plane fly right through a cloud and it doesn't do what you think it should do if it's cotton candy. That being, separate, stick with the cloud a little bit more, keep kind of that hole in the shape, that sort of stuff. What we're gonna do in that sort of a situation is we're going to look mentally and instinctively to resolve that inconsistency as quickly as possible. So we see that what we thought was cotton candy didn't actually behave that way. Maybe it behaved like air and what a cloud does, and it just kind of follows behind the airplane or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to devalue or discard the knowledge that conflicts with our worldview. So we're going to say in this situation, oh, it was actually just different kind of cotton candy, or it was very lightly made cotton candy, airy, let's say. And so this airplane was able to fly through that cotton candy cloud much more easily, and that's why it looked that way, not because clouds are not made out of cotton candy. It's a ridiculous example, but you get the point. This is something we're trying to find a resolution for in our mind. We have an instinctive way of doing that, which is to say, this doesn't match with my worldview, so I'm going to ignore those facts that do not match my worldview. The bigger thing that we want to understand for this video is how people handle that cognitive dissonance issue in a marketing setting. What we're talking about in this situation is just how a consumer's feelings about a brand and their internal logic about you or what you stand for can cause that conflict to arise. So whether they're going to want to buy from your brand or not, based on what they feel about wanting to buy from you, and what they feel about your brand in general. Easy example here is Facebook, aka Meta. So Meta has been blasted over and over the years for poor data privacy and security practices. It's continually a problem with them, and it doesn't look like it's gonna end anytime soon. Yet, millions of people are still using Meta products every day. I'm not innocent, I definitely do this, okay? But our negative feelings about the brand are being balanced against the logic that we should stay on for whatever reason. And so we're dismissing those bad facts. Whether we know them or not, we are choosing to ignore them in this situation. As a marketer, my logic center is telling me that I need to stay on because it's easier to reach my community on Facebook and Instagram. It's important to stay up on trends, and Facebook and Instagram are still a very important part of that. I need to understand the ads platform, etc. etc. Your logic system could be telling you a totally different thing while having a consistent feeling of distrust for the brand itself. All right, so now that we know what this is, what do we do with this cognitive dissonance? Well, your job is not to create cognitive dissonance. That's obviously not a good thing. What you want is to eliminate it, or at least resolve it as quickly as you can for the vast majority of your customers. So the first thing that you need to do is to understand the exact point where that cognitive dissonance is taking place. Now, you probably are knowing that there is some cognitive dissonance generally happening in your business. So the easiest thing to do here is to first start by stepping back and looking critically at that business with some fresh eyes. Do you say things that are consistent with what you sell? So for instance, let's say that you sell phones from 100% recycled material, but then you ship them to customers in plastic and 3 layers of styrofoam and styrofoam peanuts for packing and all that bad non-recyclable stuff. Customers may not trust that you're actually invested in the mission that you're advertising because of all this styrofoam and plastic that don't really go towards the mission of 100% recycled materials. So the job here is clearly to look for conflicts like that. Are you saying that you do things 100% recycled and then giving people evidence that that is not actually true? You want to find those inconsistencies. And that's the basic question. Is there an inconsistency, or is there a perception of an inconsistency that you then need to go ahead and fix, okay? And if you can't find it yourself, that's not uncommon. You just need to start asking your most vocal customers. They will not be shy about this. Once you know the exact problem, here's a few ways to try and resolve it. So first, I would say you need to reinforce an internal belief. They're already here in this position because of some internal belief. So what you need to do is try to tie together that internal belief and their logic system. So for example, let's say that you built a brand as an environmentalist, and as an influencer environmentalist, you sell products and merch on your site. One of the things that you sell is travel mugs. Travel mugs are traditionally plastic. And so what people are gonna think when they first look at that mug is that, oh, you're not actually walking the walk, you're just talking the talk. You don't actually believe in environmentalism if you're gonna sell me something plastic. But you can reinforce their belief in your mission and jump that logic gap by telling them about your cups being made from bamboo or from reprocessed wood or something like that. And what you're doing is you're reinforcing that internal belief and making the connection for that potential customer instead of hoping that they're gonna make that right connection over time on their own. Next, appeal to their emotions. So this is something that is effective in just about every marketing situation out there. An emotional appeal is almost universally one of the most effective things that you can do. We respond emotionally. We are emotional beings. It doesn't matter if you're a thinker or a feeler on the Myers-Briggs scale. You respond emotionally to things. You can check out this video for a lot of information on emotional selling techniques and how you can be successful there. But your goal here is to appeal to those emotions as a bridge between that opinion and that logic. This is something that you can do ahead in your copy. This is something that you can design to shake people out of that dissonance and that inconsistency before they've actually reached that point where they start to develop an inconsistency with your product and what you're selling and who you are. All right, so what does all of that mean? So let's just use another example. Let's say that we have a clothing line and that clothing line is eco-friendly. Now, we all know that clothing companies are notorious for pollution, so you might want to use a cause marketing strategy here to build trust that your clothes are all made from reprocessed and recycled goods. You can check out this video for a lot of details on cause marketing. That's about environmental marketing, but you'll get the idea. It's kind of the same idea. You would then want to go around building that cause marketing strategy into everything that you do, every discussion and post online, everything that you talk about, every time you stand up and make a statement online, it should have that cause marketing wrapped in somehow. What this does is it builds trust that you and your company really believe in this cause, which then builds trust that your products are in fact living up to the expectations that you're building online when you talk about eco-friendly clothing. But keep in mind that the inverse could be true here too. If you claim to be a brand that's eco-friendly, but it comes out that you're building your products in China, and it will come out that you're doing something that is contrary to what you say you're doing, you're actually going to increase that dissonance, increase that feeling of inconsistency that people feel when they're considering buying from you. It's very, very important to be aware of this because it's super easy to slide into lying to people and making those emotional appeals that aren't actually true. But once it actually comes out, you'll realize that it was just a short-term gain and now you have a long-term pain as a result. Next, include facts. So this is pretty simple. The more that you can verifiably prove your position, the lower the cognitive dissonance or that feeling of inconsistency will be. Facts and statistics increase trust, which improves your authority, which leads to more sales. So what kind of facts can we include here? Well, as with all things, it really depends on your business, but if we're gonna go back to that eco-friendly clothing line, facts like the percentage of the materials that are renewable, or the manufacturing process, or their carbon footprint, that sort of stuff would be really effective in pushing the idea that they are eco-friendly. These build trust on their face because they show that you're practicing what you're preaching. It's important though that your facts are real, because you don't want to build this trust with people and then them find out that your facts and statistics were made up or were doctored in some way, or it was some tricky statistic and you basically made it up. Nobody can really trust it if it's been twisted in a certain way. It's just far more likely to put you in hot water, so I would really avoid it if you can. And then finally, be consistent. So consistency is key in everything that you do. If you aren't consistent, nobody will truly know whether you're standing for what you say you are, or why they should trust you, or why their dissonance should be assuaged, or anything like that. A consistent message means consistent results. But that isn't just a consistent verbal message. The best magicians keep up the act when the curtain is down. So make sure that you're living what you're saying. This is not just about what you say publicly, it's about what you show at all times. So there you go. That should help you to figure out how to close that gap of inconsistency in your business. This is a really big issue that a lot of businesses face. So I hope that this is going to help you to identify that point of inconsistency, that point of cognitive dissonance, and kind of start to shut that down in your business. Let me know what your business is, and maybe if you've got a specific issue of inconsistency I can help you with. I would love to talk you through it in the comments. Otherwise, let me know what business you've run into that you just can't seem to reconcile. Like I've mentioned before, Meta is kind of a big issue where they're always talking big, but really you can't trust a word that they're saying, and still you're on there. So that's a really good example for me. Let me know if you've got any other good examples. I'd love to know. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.